The next slide deals with courage. I think there are 4 general types of courage, 3 specific and 1 general. Courage to fail, courage to take risks and to know that if it fails, if the enterprise fails, you as the leader will be held responsibility. The buck stops with you. And nobody likes failure. We all prefer success. But almost no leader has not dealt with failure. The question is, does not having enough courage to fail prevent you from taking risks? If it does, you are not going to do well as a leader. You need the courage to fail and to pick yourselves up and walk forward. Next is interpersonal courage. Courage in dealing with other people. Courage in giving them negative feedback. Courage in telling people the truth when you know that truth will hurt them. It is interpersonal courage. And next, there's moral courage. Courage to stand up for your beliefs. Courage to say no more. Courage to say, this is where I shall put my line in the sand. I will not bend, I will not buckle. that courage is important. And then there's general courage. I think courage is, as a business characteristic, rather under-researched. I want to turn finally to this issue around failed and derailed managers and leaders. It is surprising how many of our business leaders who looked very talented actually failed. Bright, talented, hardworking, but failed. If we turn to slide 17, the question is, why do high flyers fail? Perhaps they're poorly selected. Perhaps there's a flaw in their personality. Perhaps they have no role models. What do I mean by that? If you have been well led, you know what leadership looks like. If you've never had a role model, how difficult is it to become a good leader if you've never seen good leadership? I have been in organizations which for generations they have had no good leaders, and I've been in other organizations where I've seen brilliant leadership. If you have no role models, if you've never seen good leadership, it's very difficult to become a good leader. And possibly leaders fail because they're rewarded for toxicity. Toxicity means poison, means poisonousness, that in organizations that speak with forked tongues, that don't tell the truth, political organizations, there leaders might succeed but also quickly fail. So slide 18 says the basic requirements, I've said these before, bright enough, emotionally stable, not neurotic, conscientious. Slide 19, what else? You need integrity, you need courage, you need knowledge, you need insight, you need creativity. But, and most importantly, I want to look at slide 20. Typical personality disorder problems. And this is the story. Psychologists study normal personality. Psychiatrists study personality disorders. And from this we learn certain characteristics of individuals which are associated with personal difficulty. And this slide shows a number of these. And here is the interesting paradox. The paradox here is some of these characteristics associated with failed leaders are also associated with good leaders. The problem is they have too much of this characteristic. Let me look at the first one, arrogance. What does that mean? We believe that it is very important to be self-confident, to have high self-esteem, to believe in yourself. Nobody wants a leader who is unsure, insecure, doesn't have self-confidence. But can you be too self-confident? Can you slip over the line between high self-confidence and too much self-confidence? The arrogant person is somebody who believes they are always right and others are always wrong. It is a very unattractive characteristic in leaders, and one that is very common. So where is the line between high self-confidence and arrogance? Look at some of these other characteristics. Look down: melodrama, being too much the center of attention; volatile, being moody; excessive caution. These are people who are very, very cautious, can't make decisions. People who are distrustful, maybe a little bit paranoid. People who are aloof. These are characteristics associated with failure, not success. The question is this, and it is one of my tasks in selection of leaders: what you look for that you don't want, not only that which you look for that you do want. We call it select out and select in. I have a list of things I want and a list of things I don't want. Slide 21 puts these in psychological language. It's the flawed personality. And you'll see there the psychopathic or antisocial leader. What does that mean? What is a psychopath? A psychopath is a person without conscience, a person who does not know the difference between right or wrong. The person, therefore, who is able in business to make very powerful decisions, not caring about the consequences. There are narcissistic leaders, paranoid leaders, histrionic leaders, obsessive leaders. All these are dangerous characteristics. I want to turn to slide 22 and wonder how this happens. And this is the work of a man who wrote a wonderful book called High Flyers. His name is McCall, and he wrote about leaders who derail. And his argument goes like this: what happens is most leaders, paradoxically, who fail have been called high flyers. They have been recognized as people with great talent, and they do very well. They get noticed, they get chosen, but their faults are ignored or forgiven. Then what happens is people know that this is a very talented person, excellent, will become a great leader, but some people say, oh, well, watch out. There are a few little things you need to be careful about. And people say, never mind, never mind. And then what happens? They go up the organization, they get fast streamed. Suddenly, they fail and they derail because their faults hit them. Now, slide 23 and slide 24, coming up next, are very noisy slides, but they're making a very simple point. If you look at slide 23, you will see it has Division A, Division B, and Division C. These are sectors or silos of organizations. So look at Division A is about marketing people, marketing-driven people. You know as well as I do that when you go into big organizations, people sit in groups, the marketing people sit together, and the engineering people sit together, and the sales people sit together, and they tend to be alike. They are alike because they have the same attitudes and the same skills, and we know that they are good at certain things and not good at other things. So what are marketing people like? They're very resourceful, they're entrepreneurial, they're risk-taking, they get things done. They are people on the go. That's what they're good at. But there are things which they're not good at. They're not good at being very consistent. They're not being very good at discipline. They're not very good at using systems. They're not good at teamwork. So we have strengths and weaknesses. As you see, the same is true of technical people, of operational people. They are very good at doing their job, at execution. They're good at using systems. They're good at their efficiency. They're good at teamwork. They're good at all those things. They're not good at people. The next one is growth orientated. Good at things, not good at things. Slide 24, finance. Good at things, not good at things. Same issue. Very strong talents, traditionally great strengths, but not all strengths, certain weaknesses. The question is, the recognition and doing something with those weaknesses. And this is where the issue becomes problematic for the leader. The question is using people's strengths, but taking into consideration their weaknesses. Now, slide 25 is complicated, but it says just this. It says, in many organizations, people have noticeable strengths. They might be very, very intelligent. They might be very good with technical issues. Or they might be very, very good with people or very results-oriented. Young, potential leaders of the future. They get noticed. They have lots of abilities with people, with drive, etc. They might be good at all sorts of things. Then the issue is important. We call it here organizational complicity. What does it mean? It means the organization ignores, the organization forgets, the organization overlooks the weaknesses. And you promote people. You promote them too fast. You promote them up and up and up. And suddenly the strengths, which look like very, very important strengths, become weaknesses. And so this is the paradox of some leaders, that which they are good at, they are too good at, and that derails them. Now, slide 26 is one of the most important I'm going to talk about near the end of this lecture. And it's called Competencies and Their Dark Sides. What it means is this. When people select leaders and look for leaders, traditionally they come up with a number of what they call in English competencies. This is a combination of personality and ability. And you see on slide 26 a number of these: team player, customer focus, bias towards action. Most organizations will say, when we're selecting people, we want to tick off these. Here we have, are they a good team player? Are they good with customers, etc.? And that is a very, very good list to have. We want those characteristics, and we want them to be high in those categories. We want them to be very good team player. We want them to be very good at analytic thinking. But the question is, can they become too much of this? And so the question is, can you be too much of a team player? Well, potentially yes. It might be that you like working in teams and you won't take decisions. You make other people make decisions. You are dependent on others. In life you can be independent or dependent or interdependent. Now those people who don't like taking decisions for themselves might like to do so in teams because the teams protect them. So it could be that being a team player might not be a good thing always. What about customer focused, good with customers? Very important. You have to sell your product to customers. But sometimes you don't get breakthroughs with this. You can't control costs. Giving customers all they want will bankrupt your company. You need to be good with customers, sensitive to customers, but you can be too kind. You can be too soft on customers. Bias towards action. Nike says, just do it. What about thinking about it fast? Some people are impulsive. Do it, do it, do it. Let's reflect on this. Maybe that is not good. Analytical thinker. The person who says we've got to understand the company, we've got to understand how it all works, we've got to understand how the processes occur before we take any action. But maybe you never act. I am an academic, a professor. A lot of us are good at analysis, not so good at action. Too much analysis leads to analysis paralysis. Integrity. I have said always how important integrity is, to be a person who is able and willing to be honest and trustworthy. Can you be too honest? Well, it might be that you have a zealotry. You are rigid. Nothing of this happens. In business, things are grey. You have to, they say in English, distinguish between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. What is the spirit of the law and what is the exact law? And you have to walk in a grey area. People who have too much integrity are handicapped by this greyness. What about being innovative? Well, can you be too creative? Yes, you can. We have had British entrepreneurs who have come up with products that nobody wants. Very creative, very interesting ideas. Nobody buys them. The definition of creativity is that it's novel and useful. It's all very well being creative. It's not if it's not useful. Creative people are frequently rather difficult people. What about global vision? We live now in a smaller world. This morning I proofread one of my articles, which was edited by a Dutch psychologist. It was printed, it was a Canadian company owning this printing house, and I had an Indian person doing the work on the paper. So this academic paper was processed in 3 countries. The world is becoming smaller and we need a global vision. Countries are not as important as continents, and all the continents are interlinked. We need a global vision. But there are those who have a great global vision and forget the local vision. And so you need that as well. And finally, can you be too good with people? Can you be too empathic? You can. You cannot make breakthroughs. As I said earlier, you need courage. You need to give people negative feedback. You need to be tough at times. So it's an interesting idea. The idea is this: we need, importantly, not to have maximal amounts of these characteristics, but optimal. You need to be bright enough, a team player enough, biased towards action enough. Okay, let me then draw this long lecture to some conclusions. Leadership is a very interesting and important topic. All companies succeed and fail partly by the nature of their leaders. Leaders can make a great difference. Leaders can bring down whole organizations. They might not be alone responsible for success, but they certainly can be responsible for failure. We can look at leadership from many perspectives. The leadership perspective I have chosen are the characteristics of leaders, the trait approach. It says this: we need to know our leaders are bright enough. Bright people learn faster. Bright people analyze more efficiently. We need leaders who can cope with stress. We need leaders who are resilient and can cope with failure. We need leaders who work hard. We need leaders who understand people. We need leaders who are driven and ambitious. We need leaders with courage. We also need to be aware that when we see great strengths, they might be met with great weaknesses. That we need to be aware we all have strengths and weaknesses. And in organizations, it is important for leaders to be aware of their weaknesses and to deal with them. Often companies fail and derail because we push aside weaknesses when met by great strengths. Leadership is a topic of great importance. Many of you are leaders, and I wish you well. So I hope you've been able to gain something from today which makes you more financially independent and even more successful. Thank you.